jump on to seeing about each material, let us see what are the essential properties for selecting a material. So there are 5 essential properties. One is you should obviously know the properties of the material, like its strength or elasticity, both physical and mechanical properties. Then the other thing is your economic factors, like the availability and cost of raw materials, its manufacturing cost, and how much it takes to transport that particular raw material. This is also one of the important factor in selecting your building material. Apart from this, other things are your construction consideration. Like based on your structural requirements, you will go for different materials. That is one thing. And another is your aesthetic conditions, like how it looks in architectural point of view. And then also you have your climate and cultural conditions, like how the materials react with humidity, temperature, or CO2. They should not deteriorate when interacting with this CO2, etc. So one of the most essential construction material is concrete. So concrete is one of the most widely used manufactured material, like from house to big buildings to bridges, dams, everything, everywhere, concrete is being used. So concrete is usually used in combination with steel in order to compensate for its low tensile strength. Concrete has good compressive strength, but to compensate for its loads and tensile strength, it is usually combined with steel, and that is known as reinforced concrete. So what is concrete? How is concrete manufactured? So concrete is nothing but a mixture of cement, then you have your water, then you have coarse and fine aggregates. So all these three things are mixed together to get concrete. And if you look at the percentage by volume, like most of the volume comprises of aggregates, like 65 to 80% of the mixed volume is of aggregates. Then you have cement and water. This cement combines with water, it forms a viscous cement paste. So this viscous cement paste helps in binding these aggregates, like they hold these aggregates like a glue. So we'll now start with by seeing the properties of cement, how it is manufactured, and the various types of cement. Also we'll see about the tests in cement. So we saw that cement is the most essential component of this concrete. That is, when it is hydrated, it forms a viscous cement paste. So usually you pour a measured amount of water and mix it with cement, and after hydration, this viscous cement paste will form. So we can tell that cement is a material with adhesive and cohesive properties. Like when it reacts with water after it forms the cement paste, it will have adhesive and cohesive properties, which will help in binding these aggregates together when they form this concrete. So this is when it reacts with water. So these are known as hydraulic cement. So there is also one more cement type which is known as non-hydraulic cement. So this does not react with water, like it does not get hardened in water and form this paste. It is kind of unstable in water. One example for this is plaster of Paris. And also one more thing to note here is, like the cement also, there are various types of cement, but mostly 95% of the cement which is used is Portland cement. Now let us move on to the production of cement. How is cement produced? So for production of cement, we need these two basic raw ingredients. One is calcareous material, which is nothing but different forms of calcium oxide. The common material used for this are limestone, chalk, etc. And another raw material which you require for this production of cement is argillaceous material. So the examples for this are clay, shale, and blazed furnace slag. And this is nothing but different forms of silicon dioxide or silica and alumina. So initially what happens is these materials are crushed, like limestone is crushed and this clay is crushed, and after this they are stored in these material silos. So after this they are sent to processing. Either it can be two types of processing are done. One is wet processing and another is dry processing. So this dry processing requires very less fuel when compared to wet processing. This is because in wet processing you add lot of water, so you get a slurry with like 30% water. So obviously you need to dry this slurry out to get the cement. So you will obviously require more fuel. And in India mostly wet processing is used, but nowadays they are slowly gaining momentum towards this dry processing. So first let us start with this wet processing. So after this limestone, shale, etc. are crushed, so as you can see here in this grinding mill, this water is also added to this crushed material. So a slurry forms, and in this also when some materials are of oversized, not grinded properly, they are driven back to this grinding mill, and again this process gets repeated here. So after this slurry is sent on to this mixer and blender. So what happens here is this slurry is always kept in agitated condition by rotating these arms. So this will have like 30 to 50% water of the material. So a fine consistency is obtained after the addition of water, and it is always kept in this agitated condition. And this final slurry is stored in some sort of storage tank. So because of this mixing and blending, what you obtain is a homogeneous condition of this slurry. All the materials are mixed properly along with water. Now you have a slurry with like 30 to 50% water. So this has to be dried out first. So what happens is you send this to the kiln, and from this, like here, it is heated like to a very high temperature of like 1500 to 1600 degree centigrade. So when it is heated to this much level, it loses all its moisture, and this water goes away, and some sort of lumps are formed, like small lumps or nodules are formed, and these are also known as clinkers. So these clinkers are of nodular form of like 3 to 20 diameter. So at this temperature, when it gets heated and all that, this material gets fused, like it starts behaving like a single material. Initially we added two different materials, then we added water, etc. So how to make it into a single material? So that's what gets happened at this high temperature. So this material gets fused and behaves like a single material, and finally this clinker is formed. So after this, what they do is they cool this clinker, and then it is stored in the silos, and then you also have some material called gypsum. So this gypsum is added like around like 2 to 3% of very less amount of gypsum is added in order to prevent this flash setting of cement. So if you don't add this gypsum, what happens is whenever you add water to cement, it sets very quickly, like instantly within seconds. So in order to avoid that, we add some amount of gypsum, which will help in preventing this flash setting of cement. So after that, after these both are mixed properly, then they are stored in bulk. So this is the wet process for production of cement. Now let us see the dry process for production of cement. So here what happens is similarly the raw materials are like crushed in dry conditions, like there no water is added here, and then they are reduced to a very fine powder. Again they are sent into this grinding mill if they are of oversized material, then a very fine sort of particle comes out of this. Then again this mixing and blending takes place in a machine here. So this is where they get blended and mixed by means of compressed air. Like in 1 hour of aeration, a uniform mixture is formed. So this is the most essential process in this dry processing. So after that, they are stored in silos, and then they are sent into this kiln. So here also the same process like wet process happens, and you finally obtain this clinkers. Then you cool them off, then gypsum is added, and finally it is stored as cement. So here, because there is no water involved, less amount of fuel is required. Now let us see about the chemical composition of cement. Earlier we saw that the raw material contained calcium oxide, silica and alumina. So silica is nothing but SiO2 and alumina is Al2O3. So these are the chemical formula for these things. So these were the raw materials mixed. So obviously you will have more of this calcium oxide, silica and alumina only in cement. So as you can see here, 60 to 67% of the content will be calcium oxide, and then about 20% of the content will be silica, and about 3 to 8% will be alumina. So these three are the main components. So out of this calcium oxide and silica, they are responsible for giving strength to the cement. And also one more thing to note here is when like cement is added with water, we see that it will slowly start to harden. So that is known as setting of cement. So when excess of silica is there, that means the cement will set slowly. So it is responsible for slow setting of cement. When excess of silica is there, the cement will set very slowly. And this alumina is responsible for quick setting. So when you have excess of alumina, what happens is the cement will set very quickly. This is mostly undesirable because even before you start placing the cement, it will start hardening, which is not desirable. So what we usually do is to cement, that's why we add this gypsum, so that you can prevent this flash setting or quick setting of the cement. Apart from this, it also contains this iron oxide and magnesia in small quantities. These two are responsible for imparting color to the cement, grayish color. And also excess of this magnesia is also not desirable. And we also have some residues in form of alkalis. These are also not desirable for cement. Apart from that, we also have sulfur trioxide in small quantities. So these oxides will react and form some complex chemical products. So they form more complex products. So these complex products were they were identified by someone called Bogue, and it's also known as Bogue's compounds. Let us see what they are. So they form this tricalcium silicate and dicalcium silicate in majority. So they are nothing but the chemical formula is 3CaO SiO2. For yeast, the CaO is abbreviated as C, this is abbreviated as S, and alumina is abbreviated as A, and iron oxide Fe2O3 is abbreviated as F. So this can be written as C3S. This can be written as dicalcium silicate can be written as C2S. So usually this is like 25 to 50%, and this is 25 to 40%. So we saw that calcium oxide and silica are majorly responsible for giving strength to the cement. So Accordingly, here also C3S and C2S are most important for giving strength to the cement. And about 80% is comprised of the C3S and C2S only. Now let us try to understand the difference between C3S and C2S. So when excess of C3S is there, C3S hydrates very rapidly. So they react with water very quickly and develops early hardness and strength. Whereas C2S hydrates very slowly. So the strength also develops very lately. It takes a long time to add strength to the cement. So this is the essential difference between C3S and C2S. Apart from this, we also get two more complex compounds which are tricalcium aluminate, which is abbreviated as C3A, and tetracalcium aluminoferrite, which is abbreviated as C4AF. So we saw that alumina was responsible for quick setting of cement. So that obviously means this compound will react very rapidly with water, even more rapidly than the C3S. So to avoid this rapid reaction, so what we do is we add this, as we saw, we add this gypsum about 2 to 3% at the time of grinding cement itself. Also, apart from rapidly reacting with water, it releases a high heat of hydration. That is because of this rapid reaction itself. Also, it has a tendency for changing the volume of concrete frequently, and that will lead to cracking. So increased amount of C3A is usually not desirable because it decreases the setting time and also it decreases your ultimate strength. And out of these four compounds, the C4AF, it has the least cementing value. That is, it does not add much strength to the cement. Increasing this quantity will reduce the strength of cement. It is also responsible for this flash setting of cement because it contains this alumina. So this has the poorest cementing value out of all four. So we saw that when cement and this water is mixed, we get this viscous cement paste. So this reaction is exothermic in nature. So hydration of cement is exothermic, and it liberates a lot of heat. So what are the compounds formed when the cement and water reacts? So the compounds formed are, so we get something called CSH gel. This is nothing but calcium silicate hydrate, and also we get one more component which is calcium hydroxide, which is CaOH twice. So this CSH gel is the primary component which is responsible for binding these aggregates together. It is also known as tobermory gel because of its similar structural property. So when this CSH gel is nothing but like it is very small and tubular in nature, like with 2 to 10 mm only in size, and this is responsible for the good quality of cement. Like the CSH gel, what it does is between this aggregate, it fills these voids and helps in binding these aggregates together when concrete is formed. And this other component which forms calcium hydroxide, it is not a very desirable component. It contributes to lack of durability of concrete. If excess of CaOH twice is there, concrete is not durable. That is, over the long run, it will start deteriorating. What happens is when some compounds like sulfates are there, so this CaOH twice reacts with the sulfate and forms something called calcium sulfate, which is CaSO4, and this starts reacting with C3A. So when this starts reacting with C3A, what happens is the concrete starts deteriorating. So this happens usually over a long duration of time. So initially it may have strength, but during the later stages it won't have as much strength. Only advantage of CaOH twice is that it is alkaline in nature. So it tries to maintain a pH of around 13, which is very much alkaline and helps in preventing the corrosion of this reinforcement. One more thing to note here is that we saw about C3S and C2S difference. One more thing is the C3S produces less of CSH gel and more of CaOH twice when compared to C2S. So usually for like underwater structures or hydraulic structures, more of C2S is preferred because it will have less of CaOH twice. So what happens is the CaOH twice is soluble in water. So it will make the concrete porous. So because of this porous nature of concrete, lot of attacks can take place, like the sulfate attack, or water. If the water is very aggressive in nature, it will start deteriorating the concrete. So for underwater structures, more of C2S is preferred. So we saw about the hydration of cement. So as we saw earlier, C3S hydrates very rapidly and starts developing strength at a very early stage. But whereas C2S takes time for the hydration, it hardens very slowly. That is why you can see only with age C2S imparts strength to the cement. And also, as we had seen, the C3A and C4AF give very less strength to the concrete. And we also saw about the setting, like when alumina is present, the cement starts setting very quickly. As you can see, the fraction hydrated is very high for C4AF and C3A initially. Now let us see how much water is required to be added to this cement. so that you have a proper cement paste. There should not be excess water, and there should not also be lack of water, which will prevent the hydration of cement. So generally it is like 23% of water by weight of cement is required for complete hydration. So this water gets like combined with the cement to form the CSH gel, etc. And it is also known as bound water. So it is not freely existing. And apart from this 23% of water, cement will also require 15% more water to fill this gel pores. So a total of 38% water is required generally. This is only a general case, but for different cases, based on the requirement, there will be different water to cement ratio. If you have more than 38% water, what happens is in the cement, some capillary cavities will form, which will further weaken the cement strength. So let us try to understand what happens when you add this water. So initially, weak bonds start forming. Because of this, alumina is present. In the starting only, some sort of weak bonds develop when this water is added to the cement. And these gels slowly start forming. And after that, this hardening keeps on continuing. As long as these unhydrated cement particles are there and some free water exists, it keeps on forming these bonds. So once it hardens, it will have sufficient strength.